Good morning. Welcome to the community briefing. And today is the 4th of September. Yesterday was the 3rd of September, the day we'll always remember. But today is the September 4 of 2025. And we are glad you're here. My name is Gregory Sneed, president of Lifesaver Financial Services. Our guest today is Miss Deborah or Deborah, depending on
Deborah.
Deborah. Okay. Deborah Swan, and she'll be joining us momentarily to share about her journey through a bunch of things, particularly in the educational field and all the activities that she's doing currently. So now it's my pleasure to welcome to the September Queen of the Community Briefing, Miss Crystal Mitchell.
Uh-oh, and then she
Hey
froze.
guys, welcome. Glad to be here. I'm glad that you're here. Um, Sorry about my setup. I'm in a different spot because we have solar panels coming in. So we have banging going on the house. Welcome to the community briefing. It's a platform that was launched during the pandemic to make sure that we knew where all the resources are and were and how we could access them. And now we are now the place that you meet your leaders and stakeholders that are out there working in the battlefield for us in all areas that are very important to the success of our community. We have an amazing team here. You've met Greg. You will meet Robin in a minute, and then Mr. Stephen Turner, who is our producer. This platform is supported and powered by Recycling Black Dollars and the BBA, the Black Business Association, and monetarily sponsored by Los Angeles LDC, PCR, Wells Fargo Bank, Southern California Edison, Urban Excellence, and there's one more in there, SoCal Gas. So we want to thank you all for joining us, and we have a great guest today, as we always do. And all our regulars will be coming in soon. Hello, Sherilyn. She's one of our regulars. We appreciate having you guys come every week and support the community briefing. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Robin.
Good day, everybody. Greetings. I'm excited about the presenter today because this is a personal friend. This is my girl. She's married to my guy. And every week I try to bring something regarding the vote. What I heard yesterday on Urban View, please make sure you check to see that you're registered to vote annually. Because of the way they are purging these voting registrations, it is critically important that we get prepared for this midterm election that's coming up and all of the other elections that are coming up. I'm Robin Billups with the Billups Group. I assess, coach, and work with folks to get to a strategic framework for the goals that they've set for themselves. And so I want to kick it on over to Greg so we can get our program started.
Amen. Thank you. Our guest today is Deborah Swan, and let me tell you about her. Now, from time to time, I do mention that we have some guests come on here, and they've just done one or two things, and it's pretty simplistic. Well, that's not our guest today. She's done a lot. So bear with me. I'm going to try and cover some of it, but she will share the rest of it of what she's doing. But Deborah is the founder and administrator for the Hefflin Legacy Foundation. She retired from LAUSD after 20 years of outstanding contributions to teachers, and looks like she had been most recently in the Windsor Hills Elementary School, right there at the top of the hill, and helping children to improve their knowledge and education. She has 2 specialized teaching credentials on top of a master's degrees and countless trainings from different conferences around the country. She created a museum, the Black Wings Children Museum, on the school campus to highlight African-American contributions to aerospace. So I mentioned that she was the former principal there. She looks like she was, or that she's from LA. We don't know. She went to, let's see, state of California. She does show all the here, Cal State University, Fullerton, where she got a degree in counseling psychology, also communications, and multiple other credentials from UCLA Extension, state of California. Robin and Deborah are good friends, so Robin may chime in and add a little bit more from it. I don't know where she's from, where she grew up, So, and who she be with. So, so please join me in welcoming to the virtual stage Deborah Swan.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you guys for inviting me. I think what you're doing is crucially important, and I'm so glad Crystal and Robin and Stephen for inviting me. And what you're doing is so important, and I'm glad to be part of it. So I'm a tar babe. So people from Compton will know that I am from Compton. I was born and raised in Compton, and so happy to be. I think I will be able to, as I talk about my journey, because it has been an interesting journey for me, and it'll be interesting for you because when you see it's like, how do those paths cross? And especially because I had 20-year career in aerospace and helped build the very first space shuttle. And I was one of the, and I'll share that because I have some pictures. And I think pictures always tell 1,000 words. And after 70 years, because I'm 70 this year, that there is a lot. And I think it's important too that as we age, that we continue to have the same robust and excitement about what we can achieve and what we can do in life. And that's what I feel like when I close, what I'm doing now, what I think is probably the most important work that I've ever done in my life. And I'll get to that and I'll talk about that. So I do have some pictures I was going to share with you. So let's see, I share and have up here. And there we go.
Debbie's husband is from St. Louis. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay, so can you stop?
Yes.
I want to make sure I get it into slide mode. Let's see, what do I hit for slide?
It says keep coming across to the right.
It's because this. Okay, there we go.
Play to the.
All right, so I want to because it really helps. I can. First of all, it's a picture of my grandfather with his family. And these are his sisters, and Julia, Juanita, and Martha Bell, and it is his mother. Really story about my grandfather. She bragged about my grandfather. So the seed of my eventual path with my grandfather is very deep and very profound. My mother always told me that my grandfather was raised by a slave. And I was like, I looked up when I started doing my research, I would look up Jenny. Jenny is my grandmother, great grandmother. And I would look and I was like, no, but she wouldn't have been old enough. But I know in Texas, because they're from Texas, that they, the Juneteenth happened just really 2 years after the emancipation, but she was born like 20 years later. And I'm like, no, but I know that they continue, even today, some places there's slavery. So I was like, no. But then I found out when I got the consensus report that he left Texas with his grandmother, who was born a slave and was raised by her. And he didn't reunite with any of his sisters that are in this picture for 20 years and his mother. So they stayed in Texas while he came to California in like 1902. So, but the reason I wanted to share this story is my aunts would always tell us we should pass for white because we look so white. And back then, that generation really felt like if you could pass for white, then that was the way to succeed. And I remember Julia, the one that's over to the left, screamed when she saw my brother with an afro. And and then I have pictures in my book, and I'll talk about that at the end, where Jenny literally covered her face in white powder, bleach powder, so she could look whiter. And so the history, my history, is definitely the history of Black Americans. And so I wanted to start with that because, like with the theme of our history and the importance of our history is how we're going to really guide ourselves into the future. So the next one is like, okay, so I started my career at Rockwell International, building the first space shuttle. I don't know if you could find me in that picture. But for 5 years, and I was hired as a junior engineer. I was working on my credential, and Black men who had been hired because of the contracts at that time in the 70s, you couldn't get a government contract unless you hired a certain amount of minorities, African Americans. And a group of Black men that worked at Rockwell would come into Compton with a bus. And they started an organization which is still exists today, Civil Air Patrol, which is an auxiliary of the United States Air Force. And so my brothers were in that, my brother and his friends. They didn't allow girls at that time, but finally they allowed girls. And I was one of the first girls to enter Civil Air Patrol with my brothers, and I became a lieutenant. And with Rufus McAllister, who was the organizer for that, would take me to Compton Airport, and I start flying planes at 16 years old. I didn't get my pilot's license because I wasn't interested in that. But I literally start flying planes with him. Like every week we would fly to different little airports and have lunch and then fly back. And but that planted the seed of aerospace in my life because I was working at Rockwell. But the interesting thing about that, it was the white women that grouped and went and fought against them giving me that title as a junior engineer because I didn't have a degree. And so my title temporarily, because I almost was ready to get my bachelor's at that time, was taken away. They kept my pay, but my title was taken away. But it was the group of white women who went to management and said no, because they were secretary. It was the secretaries, the white secretaries that did that. So I thought that was an interesting story because my struggle is as real as any other African American, and what I've faced as a very light-skinned, looking damn near white, that but you could tell when I talk. So this is also, my journey just became very profound for the 20 years as a young person. I ended up becoming a master at building hardware, designing and building specs. The workmanship standards was what Rockwell, I specialized. I had a dark room, worked with a white guy, was my mentor, trained me. And then when they had their layoff because they didn't have the contract for the next space shuttles, I was marketable, and so they wanted me because I had this specialized training that very few people had. So I became I went on this journey. It's not what I wanted in my heart, but I was making good money. So I continued for 20 years. I gave up my dream of being a teacher. That's what I thought. That's why I had my master's in counseling and psychology, because I thought, well, maybe if I get my master's, I'll make more money going in at that level. Found out, no, I was going to have to take a $20,000 drop in pay. So I just continued on this journey and became really, really good. In fact, at Mattel Toys, I was the first senior engineer to ever have that title. When the white women found out, because all the blacks, we were like going, hey, hey, black woman, senior engineer. The white women, again, were the ones who went to management and complained. I kept my title, but it was a struggle even at Mattel Toys. But I became a corporate trainer. You can see in this picture, I was the only female and only person of color at many times on my journey. And I literally trained at 8 months pregnant, went to Hong Kong and trained managers at like 8 months pregnant. Came back 3 weeks later and had Devin, my first child. So my journeys was really, really interesting. But then I changed. I recognized after that experience with my son coming back, wanting to be a mom. And then when I found out I was pregnant with my second kid, I knew it's no way I can do this. 2 o'clock in the morning, get a call and say, hey, we need you to stamp off something to ship it. I was like, no, I've got to change. So I started working on my teaching credential, and then became a 20-year, took me 4 years because I was being a mom, because by now I had my third baby and Sophia. So while I was at home, I don't know, Robin, if you remember, I made this little black doll pen that sold, and that's how I made my extra money. And it sold in New York and Chicago and a couple of stores here in Los Angeles.
I still have it.
And it was I mean, people collect them. Denzel Washington's wife collected them. People love my pens, and that's how I was able to supplement the income that I lost, which was a huge income, and became a teacher. My journey in education was also very profound. So my first year of teaching, I started doing things I thought all teachers did. My kids were writing books, writing poetry, doing all kinds of beautiful art. I was doing all kinds of amazing things in my classroom. My kids were getting published in national magazines. They were getting ribbons at state fairs. And the first year when I started presenting to teachers, I would like say, yeah, but all of you do this. And he'd look at me like, no, we don't do that. And I was like, wow. And I was shocked because I thought, this is how do you bring out the best in children if you don't give that rein to them? And so I was a very unique teacher. And for 8 of those years, I trained teachers. So I was a literacy coach, was out of the classroom and literally would bring my passion and my excitement with education. Even when it was a mandated curriculum, I could show them the gems in that curriculum and get them excited about wanting to teach. And so towards as I'm getting older, the literacy program was cut drastically and had to go back into the classroom. And I was like, well, I want to go to a school that needs me. So I'm like, no, I want to go where children need me. So I prayed a lot, and I actually ended up like about 2 miles from my house at Windsor Hills. And when I got there, I was shocked because in my classroom I didn't have one computer. And so that began my journey of what and how can I bring resources to this school. So my first year I was able to get, I don't even know how many computers in all the classrooms. About, I guess, 50 computers were given to the classroom because of my outreach. I ended up winning a national, an award that was a nationwide classroom makeover, and I won it out of thousands of teachers, and I got new chairs and new equipment in my classroom. And then towards as I started really, what else can I do? I started bringing Boeing and aerospace companies, because there's an aerospace magnet. And I didn't realize when I walked up to the school that is a math, science, and aerospace magnet. And I was like, but they weren't even emphasizing the aerospace part at all. There was nothing at the school that emphasized the aerospace aspect. They didn't even know what it meant. So I started bringing, like I said, Boeing and Jet, and started creating field trips to Columbia, the museum in Columbia, I forgot what they call it, and JPL and all of those. And then I won a grant, $45,000 grant from UCLA. It was a professional development grant. And the first year they turned me down. They said, now, unless you can guarantee that you're going to have a room, because I wrote that I would create aerospace museum that showcased the African-American contributions to aerospace. And they said, well, we don't know if you're going to get a room. So I went to the principal and I said, can you guarantee that I'm going to get a classroom? And she did. And I gutted that without LAUSD's approval. And they came back and they were like, shame, you did get approval, but it was already set, because for the grand opening was the same day they delivered the space shuttle to LA. So I was on Channel 4 because they were like, oh, this is newsworthy. We got a museum that's opening up and we're delivering the space shuttle. So it was a fabulous grand opening. But then immediately I got backslash. So I had to leave the school. And that's because the principal came in and started downplaying what I had created at the school. She did not agree with my vision, and then actually had other people apply. Your husband, Robin, was part of. He's the one that came and told me, Deborah, because I had just went out after 3 years of putting off had surgery. And while I was on surgery, she posted my job and announced to everyone that my job was open for applicants, had me interview. And then during the interview, basically told me, you're not getting this job. So I was like, thank you. And she looked at me shocked. And I said, thank you. I had to say it 3 times before she dismissed me. And then I realized, okay, it's time for me to leave. I didn't think I'd ever walk away from that museum, that school, because really my goal, my dream was to bring $1 million to that school. I was like, no, I'm gonna rent these kids are gonna get it. I left. She was shocked. I left. I went 1 more year at another school at Alexander, but the benefit, and I didn't see, was leading me to my ultimate mission. And I didn't see it at that time because I was just so hurt. Like, why I gotta walk away from this? So you see, that's the museum. That's the grand opening. I had two other people on my team. One of my best friends drew the astronaut on the wall. Like I said, we gutted the room. My daughter's stars are all in the room on the top. I had parents come and paint. The back wall where you see me speaking to kids is an astronaut wall. So a lot of people didn't know how many black female and male astronauts that we've had over time. But it starts with the very first aviators, goes around the room, talks about the Tuskegee Airmen, and the kids really learn a lot. So as a result of that, I won the highest award given in the nation to a teacher who advances aerospace information, and that was in Washington, D.C. That's my husband, Keith. And like I said, that was probably one of the highlights. Then this is, okay, so I left the school and then I created my nonprofit and I realized, okay, this is the time now after probably, I don't know how long, I think Tom Reed, if you remember Tom Reed, the Master Blaster from KGLH, he did a book on Black music during the 20s to the 70s. And my girlfriend knew that my dream was to do a book about my grandfather and saw the ad, came over. I called him. He was almost ready to go into publication, came over, was able to get pictures of my grandfather into the book. Didn't realize he had about 10 things already in the book about my grandfather. Just nobody had connected the dots. And so, and something he said to me that I never forgot. He said, "You need your ass kicked for sitting on this stuff." Because I didn't even think, when could I work on this book? So when I retired, I was like, okay, here's my opportunity. And if you see this picture, so I created the nonprofit, but I've always supported the museum. So it took a couple of years. Once that principal left, a new principal, who was one of my friends, brought me back in as a nonprofit, and I've been supporting the museum. So it still exists. We're getting ready to plan the 13th anniversary. I'll talk a little bit more about the anniversary celebrations, because on this picture, you'll see that there's a female Black pilot that we brought last year. We have two female Black pilots, and this is a retired pilot that came with her. But we purchased kites last year, so that's a picture of the kids flying kites for the entire school. And then have volunteers come and we help the kids plant. Some of them have never flown a kite ever in their lives. So for 5 days, we took each grade level out on the yard and we actually flew kites. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's where I started my journey. After I left, it's like, okay, my first presentation was at CAM. The PowerPoint that I produced there became the outline for the book. But when I retired, I typed in my grandfather's name in Google. Nothing came up. Nothing. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to change that. So I did his first Wikipedia page. And then everyone he hired, and like I said, I'll talk more about him. He hired over 135 artists. He produced the largest and biggest jazz concerts in the world here in LA, and people don't know it. He rented out Wrigley Field, which people don't know. Wrigley Field was here first for 13 years. Rented out the baseball field, 1945, a Black man, and hired over 135 artists over that time frame. His first one was Count Basie, and he hired Nat King Cole, Sam Cooke, Ray Charles, you name it, Dinah Washington, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald. Lionel Hampton was his biggest showcase. An amazing, amazing life. And my mother always bragged about him, but I didn't, until I started doing the research. I had no idea he was as huge as he is. And so I then went and I changed every Wikipedia page of anybody he hired. So if you look up Count Basie, my grandfather's on his page. You look up Dorothy Dandridge, he's on her page. Nat King Cole, he's on that page. And then as a result of all that work, when people do research, and it's sad that they use Wikipedia to do their research, but I don't mind. They've done books, and my little passages are in their books. He's even in different languages. So the work I've done has really grown. but it's now about to get bigger. So that's what I'm going to share with you next. So this is just as an example of how the book cover is going to look. This is also showing the museum, a little bit about how we promote the anniversary. And then that's a page of one page of the book. The thing my husband would tell me, because it's been 9 years that I've been working on this, guys, it's 555 pages, because that's how much he did. And I left out a lot. One chapter is a whole book in itself. And I know that when somebody else gets a copy of the book, because I'm self-publishing, because the story is so big, 555 pages, you know what a publisher's going to do? We need to cut it down. It's a tabletop book, but they're going to still look at it and say, we need to, well, we don't need to put Sweet and Hot, which is the musical he did. Or we don't need to put that he had the largest manufacturing company before he lost it all during the Depression and then started doing that. Oh, we don't need to put the manufacturing, but that was his base. That was his heart. Am I going to leave his heart out of the book? No. So I knew that I had to take the reins and print the book myself. And it went into print yesterday. Yay! So,
So Debbie, question.
yes.
Did your grandfather's manufacturing business basically fund all of his promotional activity?
No.
No,
He lost
really?
every
Okay.
dime.
Okay.
I'll share that. I have time to share that too.
Okay.
He lost every dime, every dime. In fact, he lost money after every Cavalcade of Jazz. I think he made more money on his dances, because I found out after I was halfway in my research, because he had all these pictures of white bands. I'm like, what is they weren't in the Cavalcade of Jazz. He did have white bands on the Cavalcade of Jazz lineup. I had all the names because I have all the original programs. I have all of his archives. And so I was like, what? What? And I couldn't figure it out. So I put him in the back where I was organizing everything. And I just focused on Cavalcade of Jazz. And then I got interviewed for LAS. They came out and they dropped some things they had done in the research that I hadn't. I was like, what? What? I'm like, okay. So I went back and I started looking in January and February, because when I first started doing my research, I was like just looking around the Cavalcade of Jazz dates, which were usually the summers. I would look, he would have an ad. He would have ads like 2 months before, and he would have the headlines. He would have a review. He had huge coverage in both the California Eagle and the Los Angeles Sentinel. And other newspapers carried him too, but I limited my research to those two newspapers, the two biggest ones. But no, he paid so much money for the artist that he came out with little profit. So he made and generated money, but he didn't keep a lot of the money. This is also showing, I did, last year I presented at the Central Ave Jazz Festival. I used to go and get mad. It's like, you're talking about Central Ave, and that's like going to Paris and not even go see the Eiffel Tower. It's like, they would never even mention the Cavalcades of Jazz. They finally got a hold of it, realized that last year they were having the Central Ave Jazz Festival on the very first date of the very first Cavalcade of Jazz. So they invited me and Dr. Rice to speak. And also, so that I don't forget, Pittsburgh International Jazz Festival, they are sending me in 2 weeks to present my grandfather in honor of the 80th anniversary of the Cavalcade of Jazz. And so they're doing a whole big thing with me. So I'm just trying to get LA to wake up. It's like, come on, you guys, it's the 80th anniversary, and get the book sales to get going. But anyway, so this is also what we do when we do the anniversary. Is I bring volunteers in and we bring the kids back through. Some of the kids all year don't go through the museum. They underutilize the museum up until I forgot to mention, one of the pictures had 2 flight simulators that we got 2 years ago. So the program is just vibrant and growing. They hired a person. They were trying to get me to take the job, $150,000 a year to run the museum. I would have lost all my retirement benefits if I took the job, so I had to turn it down. But they hired somebody, so she's actually running the museum now. So it's now really up and vibrant. And the superintendent came and said, well, I know an astronaut, and we get an astronaut to come for one of the anniversary celebrations. So who was Leon Hefflin, and why should anybody know about him? And I think, why would you not? Because of what he achieved in Los Angeles as a businessman. So this is an example of his first cavalcade. He didn't just have Count Basie. He had the honey drippers. He would have a lineup that's no way anyone could afford to do what he used to do. And that's Wrigley Field. So a lot of people immediately think Chicago, of course, because they don't know that Wrigley Field used to be here, and it's torn down in 1969. But here, like I said, a black man actually went and rented it out. And he had riots at some of his, and they still let this man rent it out. So this is an example of a picture. You can see even from the angle of the picture, this is not the center stage. These people are turned and looking, so you can see how full it was. So he was able to bring the community together. These are the dates of the Cavalcades of Jazz. So you can see he also didn't just rent one baseball field. He also rented Lane Field, which was in San Diego. So he replicated the 5th Cavalcade of Jazz. And the last one, of course, and I think that's when the downfall started to happen. He stopped doing it at Wrigley Field, outdoor, went to indoor, had it at the Shrine. This one is probably one of the most stellar ones that he gave, but he lost a lot of money on that one, a lot of money. This is how he started. Hefflin Manufacturing. He literally built the furniture. He actually he would build the equipment in order to build the furniture. And this is a picture of his prospects. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But from 1920 to 1928, he first started off just building a suit of furniture, would deliver it by bike. Then he would turn around, put that money back in. Eventually would go to in front of, let's say, Macy's wasn't around there, but Robinson's was. He would go in front of Robinson's, pull out the store salespeople, let them see the furniture. They take an order. He actually sold to a lot of the major furniture department stores at that time. But he had a floor display on Central Ave, and then his manufacturing was always located in around Los Angeles. He built a famous toy called the Wampus 8 that sold all over the United States under an alias, because I'm sure if they knew it was a black man, it wouldn't have sold. And it was stellar. It looked like a DeSanto, wooden, could hold up to 200 pounds. That's where he made his money to build on 4 acres. He bought the land, 4 acres of land across from where the Watts Towers were being built. They were friends. He watched the Watts Towers being built as he was building, and Paul Williams designed and was an investor in the manufacturing company. But then the Depression hit, and Black people need their money back, and they pulled all their money out. So he kept the building, but this is the floor picture. He kept the building, and then he quote, when I found this, I had to wake up Keith. I'm like, Keith, because my mother didn't talk about this. It's this. And this is a full page. And look at there's red color, there's photographs. This was a full page ad. The finest colored recreational club resort in the world. And I'm like, and literally he had the opening, because I first found like he was, oh, here's my proposal, but he literally opened it up. He had Duke Ellington for the opening. He had a fly show. It was like the mayor came and spoke. And so I was like, wow, but he lost that, of course, because, really, we're going to be in a private country club. He was just way ahead of his time. So he kept it for about 4 years. And then during that time, his brother, his mother, sisters finally come to Los Angeles. That's his brother. His brother became the conduit between Hollywood entertainment and sepia. So he would bring in Black entertainment into Hollywood. They loved him because he does look like he's white. So he would be the MC. Everyone loved him. A lot of when he died, on all the programs after he died, my grandfather honored him with taps. So even if Count Basie, Nat King Cole, whoever was on the lineup, they did taps in honor of Bill. And when he died, the community was in uproars because he was such a popular man at that time. But he ended up, because well, I guess, I was like, well, hey, Leon, you ain't doing nothing with the furniture anymore. Why don't you join me with this entertainment? So the brothers together started just renting everything around town. Anything, and they were doing dances with every blues and jazz artist every week, sometimes 2 and 3 a week. Like I said, that's a whole nother book. So and then eventually they start doing their own thing. So, Bill became the manager of the Chicken Shack, and my grandfather eventually took over Club Alabama and renamed it Club Congo. So a lot of people don't know that. Because he was trying to bring Club Alabama back to his heyday, and he lost money in that because people weren't ready to go back. They rented out. Now, this is really interesting history. This is very deep. They rented out a run-down roller rink. Now, this is not his brother. This is him and he had another 2 investors. Run-down roller rink. I have the picture showing how messed up it was. Converted it into an elegant ballroom. They had Duke Ellington and about 3 or 4 other bands. Found out he was Black, and they revoked his permit, and he lost that. So he had another loss. Then the next thing he did, and this is really, I think, if you read this time period with him and what he was doing for Black artists at that time, would make you cry. There's articles and reviews that are written that talks about his disposition and how he was able to really back, because he's the first Black man to back a musical. They had Black musicals back then, but he actually financially backed it. And so this was with Dorothy Dandridge. He rented out the Mayan Theater, and he had like 20 other different artists. Again, that's a whole nother book in and of itself, because 20 newspapers covered him, and that was spectacular. But then that was supposed to go to New York, and it didn't. And the next thing, he's having the Cavalcade of Jazz. He started, renting out. And like I said, he didn't just hire Count Basie. He had Joe Liggins, the Peters sisters from Santa Monica, and that sister, she could blow the horn. I mean, and then Slim Gilliard. He had top artists, and he, like I said, his things would just take over. And then he this is another thing. I'm like, okay, do we have enough time? He owned. My mother told me when I was growing up. Oh yeah, he owned a hotel and with a cafe. That's all she said. So when I started doing the research, I was like, "Damn, Mom, you never said it was 250 rooms." Downtown LA. Downtown LA, a Black man owned a 250-room hotel. 1948. Come on. Oh, so the last one, like I said, was with Sam Cooke and Ray Charles, and at the Shrine. And then anyway, so like I said, 9 years of research. I'm finally having my book launch. I really want you guys to be there and support. It's going to be 1.5 miles from where his manufacturing company was, on Central Ave, which I think is just so important for the alignment. It's 555 pages, and it's on 10/25/25. There's no accident within alignment. The Alan Leitner is a world-renowned percussionist, steel drum percussionist. He is my cousin. He's also a grandson. We'll be performing. The book, like I said, I'm self-printing. Right now it's $100 because this will include the admission to the book launch. And the thing that's going to make it really spectacular is I've already finished them. I'm going to be 33 by 81 feet banners of all of the programs, which will be different from what's in the book, because the book is black and white. So you're going to be able to see all the color programs. And that will be like a gallery, so you can walk around and see it. So I hope that your donation is the book donation. So if you order the book, there's my QR code. So you can go, or you can just type in Hefflin Legacy Foundation to find out more about the book. If you want me to present, you can see I could talk, then I'd be happy to go to any event and promote the book, his story, because that's my new path, from education to aerospace, or aerospace to education, to my nonprofit, to the book. And like I said, the 13th anniversary is coming up. We have Xavier Palmer that's coming. That's also 10, 10, 25. And Xavier Palmer, who's a pilot, is coming and is going to present the 6 principles of the Tuskegee Airmen. And so I'm looking forward to that also. So I hope I don't we have time for questions and
Yeah, we do. You
okay.
know, what I love about all of this is, again, this is our Black history that nobody
No.
it's not in any book anywhere. And the
Yes.
beautiful thing that you are an educator, and I think that the curriculums that you could create for the district to show folks what these journeys can look like, because I know you. So when you think about where you came from,
Yeah.
and then what you were able to accomplish, and then in your adult life is when you realize where the foundation of where you came from, how it got built.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful story, Deb. It really, really is a beautiful story. I'm going to open it up. Anyone have any questions? But let's talk about the fact that you got 2 tracks that you're on. One is this Black Wings Museum, and that's in the school district now, and it's being supported, and they've
Mhm.
hired a director, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you have this other track about Black Hollywood, literally. Really, matter of fact, I take it Black entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
because he started in the manufacturing business,
Yeah.
moved into the jazz festival business. I take that back, moved into the entertainment space.
Yeah.
What a beautiful history.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And as
Thank
long
you.
as I've known you, I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, I learned a lot. The discovery for myself has just been eye-opening. There's been many times I had to cry.
Hmm.
Even UCLA, there's the photographers. There were 4 major photographers that covered the Cavalcade of Jazz. 2 of them are being housed at Tom and Ethel Bradley Center. They didn't know my grandfather. They had their pictures posted. They produced a book and had a picture of my grandfather. Didn't know who he was. And so I had to go, of course, and get the record straight. And the Cavalcades of Jazz is mentioned in some books, but my grandfather, and I think a lot people ask me why he's not so well known. I think that says a lot about Black history, period, because
Hmm.
it happens in general all across the board with our history. But
Hmm.
with my grandfather, he was a very quiet man. He never bragged about himself. He never came in saying, I did this. My mother did.
Hmm.
And then also because he was so, I think in a lot of ways he was very I don't know, I don't want to use the word ashamed because I don't know if that was the case, but because Black people lost their investment in the manufacturing company, because he
Hmm.
really his advertisement, how will we protect the future? How will we invest in our future? Getting Black people to invest for their future, for the kids, for their children. And then it was lost. So I think when he started to really promote, he didn't want them to know it was him.
Hmm. Hmm.
I knew his patterns and some things that I could find. Okay, and even in his programs, his publicists would have to say, Leon doesn't want to say this, but I will.
Hmm.
And I think too also for us as Black people that we don't we don't we don't really put ourselves out there the way we should. What we've done, what we've accomplished, and who we are, and how proud we are of what we've done. And I think the more we do that, that's why I think this book is so important.
Well, one of the things that you said earlier that I think is quite apropos, when somebody's doing you wrong, to just thank them. Because what you learn is, just because you're closing this door does
Yeah,
not mean this is the end of the story, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
every door for you, when we hear your story, every door that was closed was an opportunity for a new door to open. And
Absolutely.
again, it's still aligned with the fact that, I remember those pens that you used to make. I remember Debbie is an exceptional cook. She makes the best carrot cake in America, okay? In America.
And gumbo.
And and so what I hear is this entrepreneurial spirit that's been generationally passed down
Yeah,
without even being talked about, right?
yeah,
And I think that a lot of our audience and a lot of the people that dial in every week or listen to our community briefing what we talk about is it's our job to illuminate, to educate, identify these resources so that we can be better and we can lay tracks for our children and our grandchildren.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
this
That's
is
what
great.
I loved about the banners, because I'm putting them on extractable banners so I can reuse them. Because at first I
Hmm.
thought, okay, I'll put them on, panels but that's like, well, first of all, I have to house those. They're going to be hard to transport, but I can easily like take this story all across the schools and just, and that's what I've been doing with the museum. And I remember part of the award when I received the AIAA award was to visit the Smithsonian. And of course, there were 7 other white people that received the award along with me. I was the only person of color. I wanted to see the exhibit in the Smithsonian on Black aviators, and they were all, no, we don't have time. And the tour guide's like, oh no, we have time. It was like we walked by, it was a wall. And
Yeah.
I dropped my mouth and he looked at me and he said, I'm so sorry. Because he knew. And I'm like, I tell people, my museum is better than what they have at the Smithsonian. Because I was shocked. I was like, this is all you have on
Well,
our
and when in deference to them, when you think about the dearth of information that they have, it's so much. It is so, so much. However, I remember when Lonnie was collecting stuff for that museum, he was asking people to contribute. I have
yeah,
a friend whose family Bible is at the museum because they decided from like the 1800s, they decided to release it. So I think that may be something you want to revisit, right?
yeah, yeah.
Well, in the environment that we're in right now, let's just make sure LA gets the benefit
Oh yeah,
of this
yeah.
LA history. Yeah,
Pittsburgh, they're okay. I'm meeting with them today at 1 about what archives they want me to bring. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can give you scanned copies. Plus, I need my digital use agreement so that you guys don't take this stuff. And I thought, are you thinking that I'm donating this stuff to you? Because there's no way I'm going to have my stuff donated in Pittsburgh. I would
right.
love to, but no, LA is going to have my,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. But I'm
yeah,
just glad to go and present, but I'm not
yeah.
giving you my stuff.
Yeah. And I think the other, we'll talk offline, but I think there's some other ways that could be, remember when, who used to do the Smooth Jazz Festival? Oh, JVC. So I think that there are some other music companies that would be interested in that. And then on the whole flip side, Crystal, I'm coming to you. On the other flip side of the whole idea of this Black Aviators Museum, that Black Aeronautics Museum. I think that those two things, what I love is, to me, music generates brain cells. And then if you generate those brain cells through music, then you have the skill set needed to deal with this aeronautics piece. And you didn't get a chance to even talk about your time at Disney and the work that you did there, which again I know is amazing. So Crystal, you have your hand up.
Hi, everyone. Wow, this was amazing, Deborah. I so appreciate hearing your family's history. Um, I'm going to connect you with Linda Morgan Sam. She has an organization called Jazz Vibration, and she celebrates jazz musicians from back in the day. And she has
Oh,
a
wow.
huge roster, and I think that would be a great connection for you. I also want to introduce you to and refer you over to Gwen Goodman at the Black Women's Network, because she's getting ready to have but I see that is on the same day, but she has some Saturday events. You really should be there speaking to all the women in Black Women's Network. She's
Thank
always,
you.
and this is the direction she's going in right now. And Gwen has a pretty interesting background. She's a civil rights fighter for way back in the day. And so I think that would be some great connections for
Yeah.
you. This is amazing. I've searched my family's history and my grandfather, and it is such a great feeling that you have when you piece together your people's history and how they shaped you, because that's how you
Yeah.
got shaped. and all that they went through. But this is what I will say with your grandfather, with as many, I don't want to call them failures because they weren't, because they just led on to even bigger and better and greater things. He never stopped. That is absolutely fantastic, because the average entrepreneurial type person would have went, well, after the fifth one is like, I'm just going to give this up and go sit down and just review my own memories and not continue to this path, because he was in a time, heck, when the musicians couldn't even stay in hotels. I assume that is why he built his own.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't stay past Adams, right? So kudos to you for bringing this rich history and culture. And I think we all should go back in our histories and pull out everything that we can about our people, our relatives, our ancestors, because that's what our children need to hear, that we come from greatness.
Yes,
and this
absolutely.
is definitely greatness right here. And no matter what obstacles he encountered, he kept moving, man. Your granddaddy was something else.
Hey, and it's straight out of Compton. Out of Compton, for real.
Do you know how I knew him? He was a clothes salesman. He had his private list of customers. He would have boxes of size 5, size 7, size 9. He'd come, pull up, take the boxes, come up to your house. You'd go and try on whatever you wanted and you bought it. And then he'd go and visit my mom's best friends on the street. That's how I knew him. That he was a private clothes sale. And that's when my mother would say, oh, he didn't used to always do that. He was this. And I was like, oh. But
that entrepreneurial spirit,
all the up to the day he died.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this too. So my husband, there's 300 photographs. Some of them never been seen before. And like I said, the programs, a lot of information in the programs, he had 18-page programs. So there's a lot of history inside the programs. And, but my husband was like, well, what's going to make your book different? And so there's 135 QR codes. So when the year my grandfather hired the artist, the year they had the hit they had, you can listen to the music. Use your QR code and you can listen to 135 artists throughout the book. So it's interactive. So, and I love that because a lot of people have never heard. I tell people we had our own Black Shirley Temple, and she's in the book. My grandfather hired her twice, and she was amazing. And I'm like, we had our own Black Shirley Temple, and people don't know that. Tony Harper. So there's a lot of history in the book, and a lot of it's really a great way for the young people, because when I mention Count Basie, they don't know who that is. Nat King Cole, they don't know who that. A lot of these artists they've never heard of. Lionel Hampton was huge at that time. And the other thing that I mentioned the riots, because I had to try to figure out, and if you think about during that time frame, and I think when Sinners came out, I cried because I realized that what it was really trying to say about our music and our history during that time frame is why the riots would happen, because Black people would lose, that music just would bring out something that we hadn't tapped before. And now that we take for granted when we listen to Beyonce or, Jay-Z or any of those, when we go to a concert, we feel that energy. But during that time, with not the same kind of theatrics, that literally they started throwing whiskey bottles and pillows and just losing it in the stands when they would hear Lionel Hampton play Flying Home. And I've listened to Flying Home and go, what?
Steve had his hand up.
What a wonderful story, Deborah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
We're fortunate also to have someone else who's a storyteller on the line, Philip Hogan. Philip Hogan is a guest. He has one of the most progressive podcasts currently going. In addition to that, he has the nation's largest Black-owned notary business for mortgage professionals.
Oh, okay.
Phil Hogan, we got to get Deborah on your podcast. Tell a little bit about your podcast, my brother. Can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear.
Get off mute.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Philip, hi. Thank you so much for that surprising greeting. I really appreciate it. And I am Philip Hogan. I am the host of Close the Market Weekly, and it's a podcast that focuses on the mortgage industry and those that are involved in the industry. And but Deborah, this is fascinating information. This is really astonishing. It's my first time on to the program, and it won't be my last. And
Wow.
you have compiled an enormous amount of information, and it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into this. And you should be super proud of yourself. And your community, our community, celebrates you for the
Thank you.
sacrifices that you have made to make this happen, the sleepless nights, the rejections, the ridicule, the
Yes.
resistance, all of those
Yes.
cofactors that went into, fighting through what you have fought through to make this come to fruition is just wonderful. And my parents, I grew up in a family that listened to jazz. And so a lot of the artists that you're mentioning were played in my home. And
Wow.
so I'm, the Duke Ellingtons and the Lionel Hamptons and Dizzy Gillespie's, and on and Sarah Vaughan's. It's just this is a foundation of our entertainment industry that, if it's not for people like you, may be forgotten. So
Yeah.
wonderful job. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed this information, and I just wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Philip, can you put your contact information in the chat box so that we can connect you guys? And then the other thing, Deb, I think, and we'll talk offline,
Yeah.
I think you tell the story from an entrepreneurial perspective. Yes, you worked in corporate, but you had a very entrepreneurial mindset. That entrepreneurial mindset came from your grandfather
Yeah.
and you're from your family like legacy. And with that, not only did you did the education track, but you also did this museum track based on your lived experience. And now you're doing this book and you're on this entrepreneurial track to tell these stories, and they will totally resonate with everybody because everybody remembers going to their grandparents' house. My mom would like, I'm like Philip, my mother listened to jazz all the time. Well, we listen to music all the time. And I think that that's the one thing in our lives that is the true connection. That music is my sanctuary. They've heard me say this before. There's a chant from the 1500s that says, "All things shall cherish under the sun. Music alone shall live. Music alone shall live,
Mm.
never to die." So
Wow.
this is a great opportunity for you to resurrect and educate and implement and move forward with the next generation on not looking back, but not forgetting what's back there.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
This was
Exactly.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I knew this was going to be good. Really,
Thank
really
you.
good.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
So we'd like for you to come on more regularly,
Oh
you
yeah.
and Philip.
I went and looked at, I don't know, everyone, the ones that were available. And then I had to tell myself last night, stop, because I was looking at one. And I was like, okay, I want to listen to the entire thing. I was like, okay, let me get a feel. And it's just what you're doing on this program is just so important. So,
Thank you.
and, keep up the good work. And thank you for inviting me. I
Certainly.
loved being able to share. I love sharing the story.
Hmm.
And, he mattered because he shaped culture.
Mhm.
He shaped
Yes.
culture, and
Yes.
this October we'll be honoring the 80th anniversary of the very first Cavalcade of Jazz.
That is so
So
cool.
I
Awesome.
want to see all of you guys
Awesome.
there.
All
We will.
right.
I definitely will get my ticket. Thank you for sharing your family with us. This has been incredible.
Thank you.
This show, everyone, will be. I got two before this one, but will be up on our YouTube channel
Okay.
very shortly, and so you can find that under the community briefing. You actually have to type in YouTube the community business briefing, and then you will actually get to the page. But or just put in the information for her show and it should pop up once I get it up there. So give me a few days. But thank you, Deborah. I
Thank
believe
you.
you live up the street from your house. So you live in Windsor Hills,
Yeah,
View Park?
I live in Ladera.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
we're
too
over
far
in
from Robin.
okay,
We're
we're over
also neighbors.
in Windsor Hills.
Yeah,
Um,
Ladera.
thank you so much, and please share the community briefing with your network. All of you, please
Absolutely.
share your community briefing. We definitely love to have more people tuning in live, and as
Yes.
well as going over to our YouTube channel and subscribing there, and just keep coming back, because we've met some, in the last 5 years, we've met some amazing people
Amazing
doing
people.
amazing things in Los Angeles, and they all, and the majority of them look like us, and I think that is so important. Us telling our own narrative, and that's one of the, besides some other reasons, but that's
Yeah,
the reason that I wanted to launch this podcast, was because we have to tell our own narrative, which is what you're doing, tell our own history to our children, so that they do know that they come from Black excellence and greatness.
Yes.
So appreciate you.
Thank
Stephen,
you.
what we doing next week?
Next week, we're having a special segment dedicated to the 9/11 memorial. The tax
Oh,
took
wow.
place in 2001. We're reaching out for those to share. Where were you when you found out about this? And what has happened since then on September the 11th at 11 o'clock?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
everyone.
right, guys, this is
Well,
good.
thank you, Deborah. Come
Thank
back
you.
anytime, and we definitely will be supporting you. And I think I'd love to have the book, so I'm going to buy the book, and I'll make those connections to you today.
Okay,
I think
thank you.
Stephen, if you can share her email address with me, so I can introduce her to both of those ladies.
And also, I will also want to put her in contact with Phil Hogan, be on his podcast.
Yes, and Phil Hogan as well. Love to have you come back and tell us about your journey as and share that with us. And also, guys, the Business Zone, which is my other podcast, we've been on hiatus because Gilbert got injured, or he actually got attacked a month ago, and so he's in the middle of a lawsuit, so he will not be back on air for a while. So I'm looking for co-hosts to help me, because I want to start broadcasting live again for the Business
Joseph
Zone.
Duncan. I recommend Joseph.
Yes, Mr. Joey. Well, he's up there. So for anyone that
I volunteered actually. So hit me up, Crystal, and let's talk.
Okay, I will. So I'm going to launch the first live again on the 12th. So I will hit up quite a few people. It's going to be a rotating co-host show for a minute.
Deborah, you better get in line.
Yeah. And if you got any topics you want to talk about, then share them with me, and then I'll do some research and get them going. But so Joseph, I'll give you a call a little later on today, or email you once my electricity comes back up. So with that being said, I'm getting ready to lose the power on my laptop. So I am going to bid you all a wonderful day, and we hope to see you again next week. Bring your stories of where you were at 9/11, and also where we are today. I think that's excellent, Stephen. And you guys have a great weekend. Be safe out there, and let's pray for each and everybody that's people of color right now. And we will see you guys all next week. Have a great one.
Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Deborah. Let me stop.